Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, we've got a special video for you guys today. You guys all know I'm working on my Panther factory here. Been working quite a bit on it. And I talked to my friend Steve from Value Gear. That's this gentleman right here. And he was kind enough, he came up today to, or actually down to Phoenix today to get some crates and stuff for me. But since he was here and he had some time, I thought I would ask him to do a video with you guys. And we're going to show you guys how, he's going to show you guys how to do sandbag armor for the front of a American vehicle, as well as concrete armor for like a Sturmgeschütz 3. A lot of times the Germans would pour concrete on the front and carve it all up, right, extra armor protection right there. So if you're not familiar with Value Gear, he does all kinds of every scale, correct? I mean, from 48th, 35th, 72nd, all kinds of stowage packs and gear and everything you can imagine that would go on the back of a tank. Even some sci-fi stuff and things like that now.
Yeah,
too.
Sci-fi stuff and war games. So
everything
156 scale for the
everything like that.
Action.
Great, yeah. So he's the expert at making all this stuff. So we've got some tanks here. So let's get started on it. What I thought I would do for you too is show you, if you're not familiar with Value Gear, what it actually is. And Value Gear is some really nice resin accessories made basically for your armor vehicles. And like I was saying earlier, he makes them in all different scales. Now, what we're showing right here is primarily 35th scale. So we have like logs for the side of your tank, boxes, and even empty crates, which these are going to come in real handy when we do the diorama for the Panther. And then anything from like bedrolls all strapped up to these loads right here that have like tires and bags and boxes all over them. And then just to show you, he also makes specific kits that you can get this piece right here and it'll literally just drop right into place. And he's got them for Shermans, all kinds of German World War II stuff, then even some big loads like this. Now these are still in its case here, but they're all kinds of stuff to put on the back of like an Opel Blitz. He also has American stuff to put inside, Deuce and a Half, so all kinds of really cool products right here. You can see his website is right on the bottom of the screen right now. I would highly recommend going over there and checking it out. Okay, so the first thing he's going to make up for us is going to be the concrete armor that would be on the front of a Sturmgeschütz. As you can see, we already have the drop-in load for the back that would pop right into place right there, but we'll take that off for right now while he starts to work on the front. Okay, to start off, we're going to be using Magic Sculpt, and what we're doing right now is we're just brushing a little bit of Vaseline down onto the areas that we're going to use the Magic Sculpt on, and that is only if you want the parts to come off after you're done. Now, what Steve has done right here is he's drilled 2 holes all the way through the vehicle, and that is, in putting the Vaseline on, that once he gets done, those parts really are rock hard, so he can take like a screwdriver or something and poke it through to knock the pieces off. Now, if you're going to be making it like most of you will be, the part, just, you know, part of the actual vehicle, you can skip all this step right here and not worry about the Vaseline at all. And actually making the concrete up is a pretty easy type thing. You want to roll up a little ball of it and just start getting it to the right size. And then you can just start to force it into the little area right there. And slowly start to sculpt it. In reality, that's just exactly what the Germans did with the concrete. They were looking for some easy to use you know, extra armor on the fronts of their Sturmgeschütz. You can trim it down like we did right there. And kind of just force it all right in. And then just get it to the general shape, because they would just pile it on, kind of just keep slopping it up on itself, just to form just some extra armor. Keep working it back and forth. And then just using like a little toothpick or a little wooden dowel, you can just go back and forth rolling it over just to get kind of an uneven, kind of like hand applied texture to it. And finally, we're just going to use a sanding stick. And he takes the sanding stick, just pull the backing off of it here, so you could use regular sandpaper, and just push it right into the Magic Sculpt, and that's going to give it a nice rough texture that will simulate concrete. Just make sure you get all the little edges up to the corners. And now the Magic Sculpt will take about 24 hours to fully cure, but it's going to be part, if you don't put the Vaseline down, it is going to be part of that vehicle, and it'll stick very, very well, so you won't have to worry about it coming off. And quickly, Steve is going to show you how to do another group of concrete on the other side here, but if you wanted to have it look like it has a big crack going through the concrete, which would be common if you're pouring a big piece like that, sometimes the concrete will crack. And it's as easy as just taking multiple little blobs of the epoxy putty and just pushing it all together there, making your crack, and then going over it and start forming it just like you would the other way, you know, pushing it down using the toothpick or a little wooden dowel, and you'll still be just left with that fine crack that goes through it, and it adds a nice little amount of interest to the front of your vehicle, especially when you're going to put some wash or anything else on it. You'll really see that really well. And then finally, once you get all the pieces the way you want it, you'll use the sandpaper over the top and push it all in there, but you'll still be left with a nice crack. Now, and if you decide that you don't want to attempt this on your own, Steve makes up a set of these that he has that will fit right on. Now, they are kit specific, so you want to get the actual one that's designed for each one of the Stormgeschütz, but he's got it for a multiple variety of different Stormgeschütz, so you can just check his website for that. And after it dries up, that's now he's put extra concrete here on the side, but you get a general idea how it'll look like that. Now, Dragon made a kit with the concrete armor a while ago, kind of tough to get a hold of, so if you have some of your other Stormgeschütz, very easy, as you can see, to go ahead and make some concrete armor for it. Okay, to start making the sandbag for the front of your vehicle, we're using Magic Sculpt again. And Steve has rolled it out into a log of Magic Sculpt after mixing it up, about the size of your X-Acto knife. And right now he's just cutting it up into little, probably about 3/8 of an inch little blobs, little nuggets of the Magic Sculpt, getting it all ready to do. And we're going to zoom in here. Now we're using a M10 kit, one that I painted up a while ago. And what he's going to do is just start taking those little blobs of Magic Sculpt and just start pushing them into the vehicle and making it look like it would like a sandbag, because you know, sandbag is going to conform to the front, like over fenders, around lights and all that stuff, and you can get a nice, try to square it off as much as possible, but still have some type of, you know, some shape to it to make it look like it's been just thrown on there by the guys. Now gradually we're going to go ahead and just keep building up more and more sandbags going across the top. And he's just going to go back and forth, taking the sandbags and layer them on using his little toothpick. He loves using the toothpick on those especially. He says it works really well to flatten them out and give it some texture and some creasing to it. So that'll work really well. And just keep going back and forth and just start to build them up across the front of the vehicle. And he's just going to go back and forth, taking the sandbags and layering them on using his little toothpick. He loves using the toothpick on those especially. He says it works really well to flatten them out and give it some texture and some creasing to it. So that'll work really well. And just keep going back and forth and just start to build them up across the front of the vehicle. And once you have a layer or two of sandbags, you can go ahead and start to add different things like crates or wheels or anything like that that the crews would have thrown onto the front of the vehicle and getting kind of wedged in together there with the sandbags. So here we're just throwing a little crate on the front, and that will get covered up with the top with some more sandbags that he's starting to cut out right now. And after you get the first layer down, it's really good sometimes too to go over with a second layer on certain areas. You can make the bags, give it some really good depth to it. You can also have sandbags hanging over things like the crate that we're doing. Really adds a lot of character and texture to the front of the vehicle. And just keep layering them on to whatever you think you like on it right there. If you want just a few, or if you really want to load up the entire front of the vehicle, it looks really good. Okay, the next step is to put the seam on the sides of the sandbag, and this is accomplished just by using a X-Acto knife dipped in water. It's very important to dip it in water too, because this product is still very, very sticky, and you don't want your blade sticking in it and kind of tearing up on the edges of it. And you just want to go over each one of the sandbags and putting a nice little crease on the side. And in the next step, which is coming up right here, we're going to use some cotton gauze that is going to be used to give texture to the sandbags. And as we start to push down on it, you're going to be, first of all, pushing everything together and making it a tighter unit, but you're also putting some really nice texture into all of the epoxy putty to really make it look like it's actually a canvas bag. And when this is done, some of the slit that you put in for the seam will start to close down a little bit, so it'll give it more of like a sewn type sandbag would be. Well, here we are. As you can see, he's finished up all his work and added a whole bunch of other things on it too to give it a little character. Now, of course, this is unpainted. The epoxy putty does take about 24 hours to fully cure, so you don't want to paint it till after it's completely cured up on it. But what he's also done now too is he's taken some of his sacks and helmets, ammo cans and stuff that he has in his regular line and just pushed it into the side. He's rolled up some more canvas tarps and things like that, just hooked it to the side, put a little rope on it there, done the same thing. This is some of his resin product that he's just attached to the side of the vehicle. And then of course, like we were saying, the sandbags all around the back here. And you can see it adds a lot of nice character, because this is very, very common for American vehicles during World War II, because the armor wasn't the greatest on all of our vehicles. So sandbagging up the front, or he also has things like this. These are his wooden logs in his resin kit that we could go ahead and glue those onto the side. Really add some nice texture to it, and painting this stuff is actually a lot of fun. You can see super detail with the rope and the knots in the wood, so that'll really look nice on it. And then he's got all kinds of other things too that this one's not specifically designed for this. Actually, this is off the Stormgeschütz, but he has one for an M10 as well that you can put onto the back of the vehicle. So you can really see that you could really load up your vehicle quite a bit. Now, this took him probably about an hour worth of work to get all the sandbags and stuff on there. Now, he's been doing it a long time too, so even if it took you double that amount of time, you can see that you can get some really nice looks using the epoxy putty and going to town on it, just having some fun with it. So I want to thank you guys for watching our how-to video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank Steve from Value Gear for coming down. First of all, he brought me a whole bunch of empty cartons and crates, things like this, that are going to go into my Panther diorama that we're working on. But he also was kind enough, obviously, to show us his technique for doing the sandbags. And as you can see, for a short amount of work, you can really get some nice detail in it. If you are a little uncomfortable doing that yourself, he has his own resin plugs. Like I said, just like the Stormgeschütz, they are specific for each one of the vehicles. And this particular one right here is for the M4A1 Sherman. And you can see he's even put the little tie strings on it, and he's got the board already glued into place here. So this is one piece of resin. If you have the Asuka Sherman, this will just fit right on top of it right there. So it's very easy to put in there. And I'll put his web address if you want to check out his website. He's got lots and lots of product to check out. So I want to thank you guys now for watching, and please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.